10 things Americans do in the UK that locals secretly love. There's something charming about the way cultures collide. When Americans visit Britain, they don't just bring cameras and curiosity, they bring a unique perspective that makes even the most ordinary British traditions feel special again. Locals might roll their eyes on the surface, but deep down, they secretly love these little quirks. From the fascination with red phone boxes to the eagerness to queue like a pro, these moments bridge the Atlantic with smiles. Here are 10 things Americans do in the UK that locals secretly love. 10. Over-Enthusing About Tea. Brits adore their tea. It's not just a drink, it's a ritual, a pause in the day, a comfort blanket in a mug. Americans often arrive expecting just tea, but the moment they taste a proper British brew, especially served with milk, they can't stop talking about how good it is. Locals secretly beam with pride when they hear an American rave about the best cup of tea I've ever had. Tea drinking in the UK isn't about extravagance, it's about simplicity. A builder's brew, strong enough to stand a spoon in, paired with a biscuit. While Brits themselves might understate the importance of tea, the fact that Americans gush about it validates the tradition. You'll often spot an American visitor Instagramming their cup of PG tips like it's fine wine. Brits chuckle, but quietly love that admiration. From cream teas in Devon to Yorkshire tea in the north, Americans are fascinated by the variations. They ask questions. Why milk first? Why do you dunk biscuits? And each answer gives Brits a chance to proudly explain their tea heritage. 9. Taking photos of red phone boxes. Most Brits walk straight past those iconic red phone boxes without a glance. They're relics of the past, more likely to contain cobwebs than working phones. But for Americans, these boxes are like stepping into a storybook. They whip out cameras, pose inside them, and upload the pictures with captions like, "Living my best British life." Locals secretly enjoy this. The red phone box, designed in the 1920s by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, isn't just a communication relic. It's a symbol of British identity. Tourists remind locals of its charm. When Americans treat it like a must-see landmark, it rekindles national pride in something often taken for granted. In some villages, phone boxes have been turned into libraries, tiny art galleries, or even defibrillator stations. Americans find these adaptations even more fascinating, often remarking, "Only in Britain." And truthfully, locals like seeing their old icons get fresh appreciation. 8. Saying cheers at the pub. Pub culture is sacred in Britain. It's not just about the beer, it's about community, laughter, and warmth. When Americans walk into a pub and confidently raise their glass with a hearty cheers, it doesn't matter if their accent is slightly off. The effort is loved. Brits may look reserved, but they thrive on friendliness in pubs. Hearing an American embrace that ritual makes locals feel like their culture is being celebrated. Sometimes, Americans even adopt British pub manners, like buying rounds. That small gesture gets them immediate respect. And while Americans might be surprised by the variety of ales and bitters on tap, locals enjoy answering questions about which pint is best. The fact that Americans join in rather than stand awkwardly makes the experience richer for everyone. 7. Obsessing over castles and old buildings. To a Brit, a medieval castle might just be the backdrop for a weekend walk, but when Americans visit, their jaws drop. They gush over stone walls, moats, and centuries-old cathedrals with awe that makes locals see the magic afresh. Britain has more than 4,000 castles, and most towns have some form of historic architecture, anything from Tudor timber frames to Victorian town halls. Americans can't believe people live daily lives surrounded by such history. "You mean this pub is older than the United States?" they'll exclaim, and locals secretly love hearing it. While Brits may roll their eyes at overexcited commentary, there's pride in knowing their heritage impresses. It makes them pause, look at the old stone, and remember the grandeur woven into everyday life. 6. Loving the British accent, all of them. The phrase British accent makes Brits laugh. It's not just one accent, it's dozens. From London's Cockney to Newcastle's Geordie, each region has its own flavour. But when Americans gush about how posh or charming the accent sounds, locals secretly enjoy the attention. It doesn't stop at admiration. Americans often try to mimic accents, sometimes hilariously badly. A pip-pip cheerio attempt might raise eyebrows, but it usually earns a smile. Brits appreciate the effort, even if they joke about it later. Of course, not every mimicry goes down well. Some accents are trickier than others. But in tourist encounters, it's taken in good humour. The fascination also sparks conversations about dialect differences. Americans might be fascinated to learn that Bath sounds different in Yorkshire than in Bath itself. Locals are happy to explain these quirks and secretly proud that their voices feel so distinctive abroad. 5. Overdressing for afternoon tea. Afternoon tea in Britain is special but not necessarily formal. Many locals enjoy it in jeans and jumpers. Americans, however, sometimes treat it like a royal gala, dressing to the nines, complete with hats, ties, or dresses. Far from being annoyed, Brits secretly love the enthusiasm. Afternoon tea originated in the 1840s as a treat for the upper classes, and Americans' glamorous approach feels like a nod to that tradition. It's endearing to see how much they value the ritual. When Americans snap photos of their scones, clotted cream, and finger sandwiches, locals grin. They might tease about Instagram tourists, but they enjoy watching the excitement. After all, afternoon tea is about indulgence, and Americans lean into that wholeheartedly. 4. Asking about fish and chips constantly. Fish and chips is a national staple. Served in paper with a sprinkle of salt and vinegar, it's one of the most iconic meals in Britain. For Americans, it's a bucket list dish. They ask locals, "Where's the best chippy?" sometimes as soon as they land. Locals secretly love this. It shows that their humble takeaway has global fame. In seaside towns like Whitby or Brighton, Americans queue up happily for battered cod and chunky chips, and locals appreciate that recognition. What's even more amusing is Americans' excitement about mushy peas or curry sauce, extras that Brits sometimes debate fiercely. Their curiosity sparks conversation, and their enthusiasm makes the ordinary extraordinary again. 3. Attempting British slang. Americans often try to sprinkle conversations with British slang. They'll say brilliant or mate with a grin, sometimes in the wrong context. To Brits, this is adorable. It's a sign that Americans want to connect. Slang is one of the most playful aspects of British culture, and locals secretly love hearing outsiders give it a go. It might sound clumsy, but it's never offensive. In fact, it often becomes a conversation starter, with Brits happily explaining the true meaning of phrases like knackered or chuffed. Sometimes Americans even surprise locals by using slang correctly. When that happens, it earns instant approval. It's cultural exchange in action, and Brits enjoy it more than they admit. 2. Getting excited about double-decker buses. For Brits, buses are daily transport. For Americans, London's red double-deckers are iconic symbols, like yellow taxis in New York. The excitement of climbing to the top deck and snapping photos out the window is contagious. Locals secretly love this because it reminds them that something ordinary is extraordinary to others. Tourists' enthusiasm sparks conversations about bus routes, landmarks, and even personal childhood memories of riding those very buses. And while the classic route master is now mostly retired, modern hybrid double-deckers carry on the tradition. Americans don't mind. They're still thrilled just to ride on top, and Brits like that the excitement hasn't faded. 1. Queuing like a pro. If there's one thing Brits take pride in, it's queuing. Orderly lines are part of the national identity. When Americans visit, they sometimes surprise locals by embracing this tradition wholeheartedly. Instead of jostling, they wait their turn, smile politely, and blend right into Britain's favourite pastime, forming an orderly line. Locals notice this and secretly love it. It shows respect for the culture, and it makes Americans stand out in the best possible way. Travel writers often joke that queuing is Britain's unofficial national sport. So when Americans join in with patience and good humour, it feels like they've scored a cultural win. From sipping tea with wide-eyed wonder to queuing with perfect politeness, Americans in Britain bring a refreshing perspective. Locals might tease, but deep down, they love seeing their everyday traditions celebrated with such enthusiasm. These quirks bridge two cultures and spark shared laughter. That's why 10 Things Americans Do in the UK. That locals secretly love isn't just a fun list. It's proof that joy is contagious across the pond. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and don't forget to turn on the notification bell.